time for High Five Live, and we're so grateful to be together. This is a gathering series, and my darling wife is not with us today because she's tending grandbabies, and that's an important part of our lives for sure. But we have a fantastic guest and a most inspiring topic, so we're so grateful to be together. This is Brother Brian Wilcox. So glad to have you here, Brian. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Don't pump me up too much.
So Brian has a beautiful wife, and they just celebrated their 20th anniversary this last year. So that's exciting. They have 5 children, some of which know my grandchildren, and she knows some of my other kids, or he knows some of my other kids too. So this is almost like family, right? He is also a project manager for Jacobson Construction. And guess what job they have? Well, it's a major part of the renovation of the Salt Lake Temple. Wow. There's never been a project like this in the history of the church. Is that right, Brian?
There never has been. We don't suppose there ever will be again.
No. And it has been such an amazing thing that you've seen from the inside out. I will say by introduction, my darling wife is named Angel with 2 L's. We call her Angel, but her real name is Angel. She's named after her great-grandparents, whose names are Truman O. Angel, Solomon Angel, and Marianne Angel. Marianne was Brigham's wife. Solomon is their brother, and Truman O. was the architect of the church. But we found out just a week ago that Solomon supervised the cutting of every stone up at the quarry. And then Truman supervised the placement of all the stones. So this is a great historic moment for our family, and they care about it a lot. So Brian, tell us how you got involved. Tell us a little bit about your background, anything else you want to say about your introduction, but we're so grateful to have you with us. This is amazing. I mean, worldwide, people are fascinated by this. It's not just locals, right?
I was in the Taylorsville Temple about 3 weeks ago and started to eavesdrop on a conversation happening behind me with 2 of the patrons there. And I heard one of the men say, "I cannot wait for the Salt Lake Temple to reopen." And he said it about 5 times. My day to day on the project does not have enthusiasm in that way. When I come to work, it's work and it's a daily grind, and we're trying to solve challenges and solve issues and things like that. On a personal level, I am excited and do want the temple to open. But it's good to hear other members of the church who are looking forward to this and very much want it to open. As a little bit of extra background about me, I have a degree in construction management from Brigham Young University. I have worked for 2 local general contracting firms. Currently, I work for Jacobson Construction. And I started working on this project in 2018. So I have been working on this job for 7 years and have not worked on any other project. So incidentally, I think about that in terms of the ages of our children. When I began working on this project, our baby was 2, and now our baby is 9, going on 10. And so our oldest was 11, and he's about to enter the mission field. So there have been quite a few changes in them, and very little in me in that same period of time. But I started in 2018 in May doing what we call pre-construction. That's the estimating side of things, and trying to determine and develop the scope of the work, understand the cost of the work, and those kinds of things. And there was a small group.
Imagine.
There's
a small project like this.
Yes, and there was a small group of us. No one should ever believe that I was the one running things or the only person doing it. But I had a portion of the work. I began at that time primarily focused on the seismic structural portion of the work for the historic temple, as well as the historic temple renovation. So the cost and scope and those things are very near and dear to my heart. Subsequent to that, I've had a couple of different roles on the project. Currently, I'm a project manager for what we call Work Package 5, which is all of the part of the building that will be dedicated as temple space outside of the historic temple. So we are 2 full levels underground, a partial 3rd level underground, and then there's space that wraps all the way around the historic temple that's primarily mechanical connecting pieces. And then there are 2 entry buildings on the north side that you can see if you drive up and down North Temple Street that is part of the what we call Work Package 5. So
Wow.
yeah, every day I think it's interesting. I made a point for several years to make sure I knew nothing about areas outside of the seismic structural work and the historic temple renovation, and now my day to day is having to know all of those things that I tried to make sure I didn't know back then. Yeah.
The seismic, I mean, people can get on the internet and see videos that talk a little bit about your work, but the seismic process is mind-boggling to me. How they drill through, I don't know. You want to say anything about what that whole thing was like or is like?
There are so many facets to the seismic structural portion of the work, and it didn't come without challenges. Today, the temple has had the load transfer completed. Members who view this or anyone who's curious should go to the church's newsroom website, and you can see the information about that. I'm not allowed to share things that have not been published by the church. It's their business to do that. But there are still things today that we're working on as far as the seismic portion goes. Since you invited me to be on here, if it's okay for me to share a bit of a story and challenge that has been meaningful to me, and if it makes me emotional, I apologize in advance. Part of the scope of the work that we needed to do is to reinforce the top of the temple and tie it to the new structure, the new structural base. To do that, it required that we core drilled 47 holes from essentially the top of the temple down all the way through that new structure, almost 10,000 lineal feet of drilling. And in the pre-construction phase, we were trying to find someone, a subcontractor trade who had expertise in core drilling. This is not something that we have ever done and not something that we need on a day-to-day basis. So in the process of finding or trying to find a subcontractor who could do this, we found someone. They were out of Vancouver, British Columbia. And they said, Brian, we need more information on what the tolerances are. These cores that go from the top of the building to the bottom will have post-tension cables in them to create that strength from the top of the building down to that new element. Anyway, I set up a meeting with the engineer and said, here's what the need is. The subcontractor needs to know what the tolerances are. And the engineer said in sort of an offhanded way, well, if you could be within about an inch out of vertical from top to bottom, that would be good enough for us. And I basically slid out of my chair and I thought, there's no way that anyone would be able to core drill 135 feet and have it be within an inch of straight from top to bottom. I just don't know how that's going to be done. To the subcontractor's credit, they never flinched and they said, okay, we can do that.
Oh my goodness.
And I have a picture, which I cannot show you, but I took a picture looking up through the core hole that they drilled, and it's 3.5 inches in diameter, but you can see light from the top, at the top, and it looks like a little pinhole in my picture. But the first hole that they core drilled was 90 feet in length, roughly. and they were within about a quarter inch of it being perfectly straight from top to bottom.
That is unheard of.
Yeah, I was floored. Their response was, "We could make this perfectly straight if you needed us to." And the spirit, I had a spiritual experience with this, and maybe this is why I wanted to share it. I was explaining this to a group of youth who was here on site about 2 years ago, and the spirit really impressed on me the magnitude of this. So this company has developed the technology to know where their core drilling head is in space. So they can make corrections to their core drilling line along the way. And the lesson to me was, it's not because they were perfect going straight down, just core drilling, and they made a perfectly straight hole, but they knew where they were. They knew that they needed to make a correction. They knew how to make a correction, and that enabled them to start in the right place and finish in the right place.
That is so beautiful.
Our lives are like that, I believe.
Oh yeah, that is so beautiful. What a perfect example of what we do and what we need to do in our lives, right?
Yeah. Let me share one other thing about that. The walls of the temple are multiple blocks of stone thick. And the pioneer saints didn't cut the backsides of the stone perfect, and they filled in gaps with mortar in places, in some places more than others. As we core drilled down through that, if we ever hit a pocket of mortar, it caused our core drilling bits to lose their straight line. And as long as we were core drilling through granite, we could stay on target. I thought it very interesting that the hard path was the one that kept us straight and true. It was that soft mortar that was easy that caused us to get off course, which I think there's a life lesson in there, but I'm not sure.
Oh no, you're exactly right. Yeah. There's a reason why it's called the straight and narrow path. And there's a reason why sometimes in life we need to do the hard things, for sure. Yeah. And that's what it takes. That's beautiful.
Well, I'll just express my appreciation to the Spirit for impressing that upon my heart.
Yeah, I appreciate the Spirit pressing it on my heart too. Yeah. That's awesome. So tell us about these auxiliary buildings. I've heard rumors about the beautiful buildings on the outside that are being completed that are going to be like, I wouldn't call it a visitor center, but an entry point. I don't know.
So it's possible that there is some confusion about that. On the south side of the block, on South Temple Street, there used to be a visitor center, and we have constructed a new building that is a visitor center. And there are two buildings on the surface. They're connected by a basement, and the church has planned a really wonderful display in there. And they will, of course, change that from time to time. The Christus statue is housed there, and there's a replica of the remodeled Salt Lake Temple in that visitor center. One of the wonderful things that they've done, and when it opens, I hope everyone will come see it. But there's what I refer to as a perpetual open house, where they've constructed spaces that look like temple spaces, so that visitors who come to Salt Lake and Temple Square who are curious can come experience temple quality finishes and space, and it will enable the missionaries to really explain the purpose of and use of temples, which I think is just a magnificent thing.
That's a great, and what I've heard, it is an exact replica, basically, of the rooms inside the temple. They're going to be there for people to view.
The answer is it's a temple that was constructed, I think, somewhere in the Midwest. So it doesn't look like the Salt Lake Temple, but it does use details from a different temple. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. That's exciting. So the old visitor center that was on the southeast corner is gone. And this is
Correct.
a new one? Okay.
Correct. And then the old North Visitor Center, I don't remember if it had a different name, but the Visitor Center that was on the north has been uh, demolished, and that's where the Christus was. And so I don't know the full program and operation of what the church intends to do with their visitor center, but the Christus has been relocated to the south side there.
Wow. That's amazing. And then these other auxiliary buildings you're working on as far as, what do we call it, Project 5? Or?
Work package 5, yes. So there are two buildings on North Temple that will act as entry buildings. The new operation of the temple will enable a patron to park in the parking center, or the parking garage of the conference center, and there's a tunnel that goes underneath the roadway, and so you can park your car and stay underground and enter the temple that way, or you can enter from the sidewalk and come in the entry building, and there will be a recommend desk there, and those buildings are beautiful and have the finishes of the Salt Lake Temple, and so on the north side is temple space, on the south side is the visitor center.
So is that also going to be the children's center where kids come that are preparing to be sealed to their families?
I don't know the answer to that. It would be considered a non-patron space, certainly, where if you're not endowed or don't have a temple recommend and come to participate in a family ordinance such as a sealing, then that would be certainly a place where you would go for that.
So we have lots of family history reading about Truman and Brigham and their interaction and the temple, and Brigham having to unearth that foundation and decide we got to take up the whole thing and start over. And those stories, the Mountain of the Lord depicts it well, but there's a lot of additional history between Grandpa Truman, Uncle Truman, and Brigham, and they talk about all the things they're going through, and they had a fun relationship. I just know they're very involved still.
Yeah.
Still, they're very interested in what you're doing. Can you imagine how this pioneer group, I mean, it was 21 miles from, the best I know, a little over 21 miles to go from the quarry down to the temple site. And at first it was wagons, putting granite stones on wagons. I can't even envision what they went through to try to get that to happen.
Well, maybe I can make it worse for you and not better. The engineers estimate that the temple weighs in the range of 185 million pounds. And as far as I know, none of that material was here on the block when they started. So it all had to be imported. Plus, this was their quarry cutting place. So they brought more than that and chipped off a bunch of things to square up the stones and shape them into what they needed, and undoubtedly threw the rest away or hauled it back off somewhere. But that's a lot of wagon loads, and yeah, that makes it worse, not better, probably. But yes, a huge amount of effort, and along the way, I've had several. I've been keeping a journal from time to time for things that are that jump out at me, and one of my entries that I thought to make and still haven't fully finished is one called "Blessed Honored Pioneer," that uses that phrase out of the hymn book. The work that they did here really was magnificent. And I've been, for my pre-construction work, I needed to be inside the historic temple. And so I went into places like the attic above the 5th floor. And there are stones in there that no one will ever see and no one will ever look at, or no one has. But they were shaped and carved as though they would be on the outside of the building. When the roof went on, they ended up being on the inside of the building. And so I think sometimes about those pioneers whose humble offering is used in the building, yes, but was never looked at, never seen, and completely unnoticed, frankly. And there might be a lesson in how we serve in that kind of thing too.
So true. And I heard a friend talk about that kind of thing and say, well, I know no one will ever see it, and I know no one will ever know it, but God knows.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that focus that says this is a building to him. It's not just to honor men. And I want it to be something he would be proud of and feel comfortable coming to.
Yeah.
And to add to that, of course,
Go
I
ahead.
received my endowments in Salt Lake Temple. And of course, I went as a missionary into the temple early, and we had a sacrament meeting and lots of remarkable experiences. But we were in that upper room on the 5th floor. Harold B. Lee came in. He was answering questions for all the missionaries. And one of the American Indian elders said, I heard that the Savior appeared on a stairwell in the temple, and I just wonder if you know where that happened, because I just walked up the stairs in the back. And he kind of casually asked that. And President Lee covered his scriptures with his hands and took about 20 seconds of just private contemplation, because he knows exactly where it happened. I know exactly where it happened. But he didn't answer the question that way. He said, Elder, I think what you're asking me is, where has the Lord been in the temple? And then he said, this is the Lord's house. He's been in all the rooms of the temple, including right where you are. And then he said, he's not an absentee father in this work. So not only are the pioneers very interested in what's happening, I have no doubt that the Lord is very interested in what's happening. And that as you work there, you work in a place where he has been and will be again. And that has to be unique in all the kind of construction experience. I mean, I have a good friend that supervises building some of the temples, but to be in a place where he's been already, not building a new one, I don't know. I just weep about the significance of what you're doing. And so thankful that you prepared yourself to be an instrument in the Lord's hands, to be doing exactly what you're doing. When I met you, I was so impressed with the spirit you have. And I thought, Brian's the perfect person to be doing this, because he understands not only the construction stuff, but the spiritual significance of what he's doing. Do you want to say anything more about that as we kind of close? Or anything else you want to say? This has been so delightful for me. Wow.
Well, I'll accept your gracious compliment. There have been handfuls of things along the way where I have sort of scratched my head and just privately thought, Lord, how is it possible that you thought I was capable of taking on this or understanding this? This is so beyond my capacity. And including, how do we, to your point, how do we come into this space that has been dedicated as a temple space, preserve the spirit of the building, and so that for its future use, it's acceptable and accepted. I can't say that myself or anyone's been perfect at that, but and all the people who work here are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ, and we've been imperfect at doing that. But I will say that part of the miracle of working on this temple or any other temple is that as it progresses closer to its finish, there's a spirit that comes into the building. And right now, so I'm inside the temple right now. So you can say that you've seen inside. This is actually inside the carpenter shop, and so it's a place you'll never go, undoubtedly. But as we finish spaces, there's an elevating spirit that comes in. Behind me, a couple of rooms away, is a ceiling room. And if you go on to the church newsroom website, you'll see a rendering of a large green ceiling room. And it's really coming together. It's getting close to its finished phases. And it starts to feel like a special place again. Whereas 2 years ago, when it was just a concrete walls, it felt like a concrete room. I think my comment is, yes, we have recognized that we are treading on sacred ground, and as we have built these new spaces, and as we finish them and they get cleaned and finally fitted out, that the Spirit comes in and starts to remind us of the sacred space. And I won't say where I think the Lord has been in the new part of the temple that's not yet dedicated, but undoubtedly he will inspect it, and we hope that he accepts this offering of the Church of Jesus Christ in his name when it is dedicated.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. Well, I don't know of another time we've had an open house that's going to last for 6 months. And it sounds
I would say get your tickets now. Really, this is just me speaking privately. I know nothing about the open house plans that the church has, but I really hope they call upon all of the stakes to participate. And I hope that there are service opportunities to come and stand by the door or be near the elevator and help people come through. I will be thrilled if that's the case. And of course, I don't know, but I'm hoping that I can volunteer and be part of that open house.
Well, I'm hoping I can too.
Yeah.
To all our listeners, this historic, beautiful experience is going to be a gift to the saints, a gift to the world. There will be more people that go through this open house than have ever been, probably in an open house in the history of the church. And we give a chance for so many people to understand who we are and what we believe. But more than that, it'll be this remarkable place where we can again make covenants and move forward. And I can go back to a sealing room where at least close to the one I was in when I got sealed to my beautiful bride, and celebrate those moments in a way that will bring back all the eternal nature of what it's about. And so thank you, Brian, so much. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
Can I just share I do have to jump to another thing, but if I can share an excerpt from the dedicatory prayer given by Wilford Woodruff. I've kept this at my desk, and I read it from time to time because it's been meaningful to me. And during the process of construction, I have felt this way at different times. So I'll just finish with this. This is a quotation from Wilford W. Woodruff from the original dedication. He says, "Heavenly Father, when thy people shall not have the opportunity of entering this holy house to offer their supplications to thee, and they are oppressed and in trouble, surrounded by difficulties or assailed by temptation, and shall turn their faces towards this thy holy house and ask thee for deliverance, for help, for thy power to be extended in their behalf, we beseech thee to look down from thy holy habitation in mercy and tender compassion upon them, and listen to their cries. Or when the children of thy people in years to come shall be separated through any cause from this place, and their heart shall turn in remembrance of thy promises to this holy temple, and they shall cry unto thee from the depths of their affliction and sorrow, to extend relief and deliverance to them, we humbly entreat thee to turn thine ear in mercy to them, hearken to their cries, and grant unto them the blessings for which they ask." Brigham Young said, we hear the bells of hell ring when we undertake to build a temple. And I will say that we have felt surrounded by difficulties and oppressed on some of this work. Thank you for your prayers and the collective prayers of many saints who care that this building opens. We appreciate all of those things.
It's a miracle work. And to all of you that are out there, please share this and allow others to just reminisce, but also look forward to this remarkable opportunity to have again this beacon, this example, this moment where Brigham arrived in 1847 and stuck his cane in the ground and said, "Here we will build a temple to our God." And it is being renewed to be able to stay as that wonderful beacon in our lives. Thanks, Brian, so much. And all of you have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was great.
Have a great weekend.
Exciting.